From the mountains of Manchuria to the jungles of the Pacific, Japanese armor evolved through industrial limits and ingenious design. When war began, the army fielded light tanks and tankettes suited for China's terrain but inadequate against Western armor. Desperation drove innovation, producing amphibious tanks that swam ashore and prototypes that rivaled German heavies. Yet resource shortages doomed even the best designs, with legendary tanks built in handfuls, while obsolete models continued production until surrender.
Tankettes and light tanks. Type 92 Ju Sokosha, one of Japan's first armored vehicles, called a heavy armored car, but essentially a tankette. It served primarily with cavalry units in Manchuria. The Type 92 participated in the Battle of Rehe in 1933, proving the concept of mechanized warfare to skeptical commanders. Its suspension often failed at high speeds, limiting tactical mobility. About 200 were built, teaching valuable lessons that influenced all subsequent Japanese armor development. Type 94 TK. The tiny tankette, designed as an armored ammunition carrier. So small it could be towed by a truck, the Type 94 was nicknamed the Bean Tank by crews. In China, it provided infantry support, but by the Pacific War, its thin armor could be penetrated by rifle fire at close range. Several hundred were built, serving mainly in second-line and training roles, where its limitations mattered less. Type 97 TKE. The replacement for the Type 94 with significant improvements. Moving the engine to the rear improved balance and crew space. The 37mm gun provided real firepower for such a small vehicle. Faster and with a lower profile, the TK wreaked havoc on unprepared Allied positions during the Malayan invasion. Its small size allowed operations in terrain impassable to larger tanks, proving valuable in jungle warfare. Type 95 Hago. The most produced Japanese tank of the war, with over 2,300 built. Fast, reliable, and perfect for jungle warfare where heavy Allied tanks couldn't operate effectively. The 37mm gun and 2 machine guns provided adequate firepower against infantry and light vehicles. However, thin armor made it vulnerable to everything from bazookas to heavy machine guns. The Hago served from Manchuria to the Pacific Islands, becoming the face of Japanese armor. Type 98 K-Ni. Designed to replace the Hago with better armor and firepower. Faster, lighter, and featuring welded construction instead of rivets, the Type 98 addressed known Hago weaknesses. The improved 37mm gun had higher muzzle velocity for better anti-tank performance. Despite being superior, production issues and steel shortages meant only about 200 were built. The reliable Hago remained in production instead, showing how industrial limitations shaped Japanese armor development. Type 2 K2. An improvement on the K-Ni with an enlarged turret and better gun. Only 34 were completed by war's end, mostly reserved for homeland defense. Production started in 1944, when Japan desperately needed steel for other priorities. The Type 2 represented what Japanese light tanks could have been with adequate resources. None are known to have seen combat before surrender, remaining one of many promising designs that arrived too late. Type 4 K-Nu. A battlefield expedient combining Hago chassis with Chi-Ha turret. When proper medium tanks couldn't be produced in sufficient numbers, engineers mounted the larger turret on existing light tank hulls. Cramped, but providing better firepower, about 100 conversions were completed. The Type 4 showed Japanese ingenuity in maximizing existing resources. It served primarily in training and homeland defense, another late-war improvisation that never reached the front lines. Medium tanks. Type 89 Hago. The grandfather of Japanese armor, built in the late 1920s. Featuring a distinct World War I-style trench-crossing tail,
It was the world's first mass-produced diesel tank. About 400 were built in 2 variants, serving extensively in China. The low-velocity 57mm gun worked well against fortifications, but proved useless against other tanks. By 1941, the Type 89 was hopelessly obsolete, yet it continued serving until 1943 in secondary theaters where no better armor was available. Type 97, Chi-Ha. The icon and backbone of Imperial armored divisions. The 57mm low-velocity gun excelled at blasting bunkers in China, but couldn't penetrate tank armor. Over 1,200 were built, serving in every theater from Manchuria to the Philippines. The Chi-Ha dominated Asian battlefields until encountering Soviet and American armor. Its weaknesses, exposed at Khalkhin Gol and Luzon, demonstrated the price of designing for infantry support rather than tank versus tank combat. Type 97, Shinhoto Chi-Ha. The new turret, Chi-Ha, that addressed the tank's fatal weakness. After disaster at Khalkhin Gol against Soviet armor, Japan upgraded the Chi-Ha with a high-velocity 47mm gun. This became the only Japanese tank capable of fighting Allied armor on somewhat equal terms. The new turret fit existing hulls, allowing rapid fielding without retooling. The Shinhoto Chi-Ha represented Japan's attempt to keep pace in the armored warfare arms race despite limited industrial capacity. Type 1 Chi-He. A complete modernization featuring welded armor and improved systems. The 5-man crew with radios in every tank brought Japanese armor into modern warfare doctrine. The 47mm high-velocity gun matched the Shinhoto Chi-Ha's firepower with better protection. Statistically superior to the American M3 Stuart, it arrived too late to affect the war's outcome. Limited production meant most remained in Japan for homeland defense, never facing the combat they were designed for. Type 3 Chi-Nu, Japan's last line of defense against Sherman tanks. Desperate for something to kill M4s, engineers mounted a massive 75mm field gun onto a modified Chi-He chassis. About 160 were built, all held back in Japan for the decisive battle that never happened. The Chi-Nu finally gave Japanese tankers a weapon that could penetrate Sherman armor at combat ranges. It represented Japan's last attempt to field competitive medium tank firepower. Type 4 Chi-2, the medium tank that could have rivaled the Panther. Weighing 30 tons with heavy armor and a long 75mm gun, only 2 were completed before war's end. Both prototypes were dumped into Lake Hamana to prevent capture. The Chi-2 showed Japanese engineers understood modern tank design principles. Resource shortages and American bombing prevented mass production, making it another promising design that existed mainly on paper. Type 5 Chi-Re, a massive evolution of the Chi-2 with revolutionary features. Mounting a semi-automatic loader for rapid fire and a secondary 37mm cannon in the hull, it represented Japan's vision of a heavy cruiser tank. A single prototype was captured by Americans, minus its main gun, ending the dream of advanced Japanese armor. The Chi-Re demonstrated that Japanese designers could match Western innovations when freed from resource constraints. Amphibious tanks. Type 2 Kami. Based on the Hago light tank with innovative amphibious capability. Large hollow pontoons attached front and rear allowed water crossing. Once hitting the beach, crews jettisoned the pontoons from inside, instantly converting it to a ground combat vehicle. About 182 were built, first seeing combat at Guadalcanal in late 1942. The Kami proved valuable in island-hopping campaigns, though complex construction limited production. It represented Japan's unique approach to Pacific warfare challenges. Type 3 Ka-Chi. The Kami's big brother, based on the Chi-He medium tank. Fully submersible with a snorkel tower for the engine, it was designed to launch from submarines miles offshore. The ambitious plan aimed to surprise island garrisons with medium tanks appearing from the sea. Few were built due to production priorities, with most resources directed to warships and aircraft. The Type 3 showed Japan's willingness to pursue radical concepts for amphibious assault. Type 4, Katsu, a bizarre hybrid combining amphibious tractor with torpedo armament. Armed with 2 torpedoes, the plan involved air transporting them to islands where they would swim out to attack anchored American warships. The desperate concept reflected Japan's deteriorating strategic situation. The plan was never executed, with Type 4s relegated to training or destroyed before surrender. It exemplified late-war desperation measures that consumed resources better spent elsewhere. Type 5, Toku, the final amphibious tank design completed too late for combat. Incorporating lessons from earlier amphibious vehicles, it featured improved systems and better protection. Only prototypes existed at war's end, representing what Japanese amphibious armor might have achieved with more time and resources. The Toku closed the chapter on Japan's unique amphibious tank program, a concept born from Pacific geography that never reached its full potential. Tank destroyers and self-propelled guns. Type 1, Ho-Ni. 1. Japan's answer to the German Marder, mounting a 75mm field gun in an open casemate. Built on the Chi-Ha chassis, about 26 were produced for the Philippines campaign. The powerful gun provided much-needed anti-tank capability, but exposed crews suffered from shrapnel and sniper fire. The Ho-Ni 1 represented Japan's first serious attempt at mobile anti-tank warfare, learning lessons Western armies had discovered years earlier. Type 1 Ho-Ni 2. Similar to the Ho-Ni 1, but mounting a 105mm howitzer for indirect fire. About 54 were built, providing mobile artillery support for armored units. The high explosive shells proved effective against fortifications and infantry positions. Like its sister vehicle, the open fighting compartment made crews vulnerable. The Ho-Ni 2 filled an important role in combined arms doctrine, offering capabilities regular tanks couldn't provide. Type 3, Ho-Ni 3, the definitive tank destroyer with fully enclosed armored casemate. Finally protecting crews from the elements and enemy fire, it mounted the same 75mm gun as earlier Ho-Ni variants. Very few were deployed before war's end, mostly held for homeland defense. The Ho-Ni 3 showed Japanese engineers learning from combat experience, though it arrived too late to influence battlefield outcomes significantly. Type 2, Ho-I, a self-propelled gun designed for direct infantry support. Mounting a short-barreled 75mm howitzer in a large turret on the Chi-Ha chassis, it resembled early German Panzer IVs in concept. Only 31 were produced in 1944, seeing limited or no combat. The Ho-I represented proper combined arms thinking, providing mobile fire support for tank regiments. Industrial collapse prevented meaningful production of this and other promising late-war designs. Type 4, Ho-Ro, the bunker buster armed with a massive 150mm howitzer. Usually found on warships, the gun fired enormous high-explosive shells that could disable tanks through sheer concussive force. Built on Chi-Ha chassis, about 12 were produced. The Ho-Ro provided devastating fire support against fortified positions. Its appearance on Pacific battlefields would have complicated American operations, but few were deployed in time to make any difference. Type 5, NATO, a late-war desperation weapon mounting a 75mm anti-tank gun on a tracked transport carrier. Cheap to produce, but offering almost no crew protection, it represented Japan's deteriorating military situation. The open mount made crews vulnerable to everything from small arms to artillery fragments. Only a handful were completed before surrender. The NATO exemplified how resource shortages forced compromises that produced increasingly inadequate vehicles. Heavy tanks and prototypes. Type 91, heavy tank, a massive multi-turreted design developed in the 1930s. Influenced by European heavy tanks like the British Independent, it featured multiple turrets and weighed about 18 tons. Slow and overly complex, only a handful were constructed. The Type 91 represented pre-war thinking about breakthrough tanks that proved impractical. It taught Japanese designers that complexity and size had limits, lessons that influenced later, more practical designs. Type 95, heavy tank, another multi-turreted heavy tank weighing approximately 26 tons. Considered too slow and complex for effective combat, about 4 were built for evaluation. The Type 95 proved a technological dead end, consuming resources without providing battlefield value. Its failure convinced Japanese planners to focus on lighter, more mobile designs suited to Asian terrain and available industrial capacity. OI, Super Heavy Tank, the legend weighing a proposed 150 tons with thick armor and multiple turrets. Designed as a land battleship to crush the Soviet Union, reports suggest one prototype was built and tested in Manchuria. All evidence was destroyed before surrender, making it one of World War II's most mysterious tanks. The OI represented Japan's most ambitious armored warfare vision, combining German super heavy tank concepts with Japanese engineering. Whether it truly existed remains debated, but it captures imaginations as the ultimate what-if of Japanese tank development. From crude tankettes to the legendary OI Super Heavy, Japanese armor tells a story of innovation constrained by industrial reality. Early designs like the Hago and Chiha dominated Asian opponents, but proved inadequate against Western armor. The Amphibious Kami showed unique solutions to Pacific challenges. Late-war designs like the Chito and Chiri matched Allied capabilities on paper, yet only handfuls were built. Japan produced barely 6,500 tanks total, while America built 49,000 Shermans alone. The Shinhoto Chiha and Chinu represented desperate attempts to keep pace in an arms race Japan couldn't win industrially. Resource shortages meant promising designs remained prototypes while obsolete models continued production. Japanese armor ultimately failed, not from lack of engineering skill, but from impossible strategic and industrial disadvantages that no amount of ingenuity could overcome.